Hello, and welcome to Spirit Among Us. In our lives, we have a God that provides for us. And He's a God that doesn't just provide for the bare minimum. I know in my own life, it's not that God just gives me only what I need. I have been blessed far more than that, far beyond that, to have all kinds of extra blessings in my life that I am able to possess or experience or have. And I should be grateful for these things. We have a gracious God who loves to bless us in some of these ways. But in our lives, while God does this, He does not want us to be fixated on these things. We should be thankful and grateful for the blessings that God gives us, for the pleasures that God gives us in this life with the things He blesses us with. But we are not called to work for these things or to seek after these things. Most of us know the story when Jesus fed the 5,000. He gave a sermon to 5,000 people, and it was becoming late in the day and people were getting hungry and they didn't have enough food. So He performed a miracle and literally fed 5,000 people with a few loaves of bread and a couple fish. They were all filled, and they actually had food left over. Now after this, the crowd got excited. They saw this miracle. They saw what had been performed. They started getting riled up. And Jesus withdrew. It said He withdrew to the mountain. And then in the evening, His disciples got in a boat, and they sailed across the Sea of Galilee. Now, while they were going across, Jesus appeared to them, and as soon as He appeared to them in the midst of the storm, they were transported to the dry land in a town called Capernaum. Now the next day, the group of 5,000 was still on the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and they were saying, okay, Jesus isn't here, the disciples aren't here, what are we going to do? So they got in a bunch of boats and started looking for Him. Now they got to the same town, and when they eventually found Him, that's where we pick up these verses. John chapter 6, verses 25 through 27. When they found Him on the other side of the sea, they said to Him, Rabbi, when did you come here? Jesus answered them, Truly, truly, I say to you, you are seeking me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not work for the food that perishes, but for the food that endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give you. For on Him God the Father has set His seal. So they sail across the sea. They finally find Jesus again, and they're like, where'd you go? Where were you? When did you get here? And He says, look, you're not seeking me because you have faith. You're not seeking me because you believe in me and you saw the signs I performed. You are only seeking me because I gave you food. Because I satisfied your worldly desire, your fleshly desire. Not that it's evil to be hungry. That's not what Jesus is saying here. But they were seeking Him because they ate food, not because He was the Messiah. They missed that fact. They were so fixated on being satisfied in a worldly way that they missed the fact that He is the Son of God, God incarnate, performing miracles right in front of them. They didn't seek Him because they wanted to learn more or they wanted to follow Him. They were seeking Him because they wanted food. And for this, Jesus reprimands them. So now coming back to how God provides for us in our lives and provides much more than we actually need. He doesn't want us to become fixated on these things. When God blesses us with a house, maybe a nice job, maybe some nice possessions, or just other blessings that we have, He does not want us to be fixated on these things. And He does not want us to be working so that we can have these things. That's not why we work. We don't work for worldly pleasure, but we work for Jesus. Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21 say it like this. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." So we are not called to lay up treasure on this earth. The desires of this world, the things that we see, the material things, possessions that are around us in this life, the things that we have are passing away. They are treasures on earth that will be destroyed. We don't bring them with us when we leave. And so we're called to work for a different sort of thing. We're not called to work for worldly pleasure, but godly pleasure. Don't lay up treasures on earth, but treasures in heaven. Because that will never perish. That will never pass away, and no one can take that from you. So really, when it comes to remembering why we serve God, it's not because we want Him to give us a nice house, or a fancy car, or a good job, or a successful life. We are not called to seek after these things. Do not lay up treasures on earth. Instead, we are to recognize and serve God for what He has already done. Jesus has already poured out Himself in full on the cross in our place. He took our punishment, our sin, on Himself. And that is why we serve Him, for that ultimate display of love. So in your life, don't forget this. We don't serve God so that we'll get something in return. But we serve God because we love Him for what He has already done. Thank you for watching, and God bless.